So this is probably one of the most underrated cuts of meat you can do in your smoker, and it will feed a ton of people. It's easy to do, it doesn't take too long, and it's awesome. That's right, we're talking about the boneless whole pork loin. This thing's about 12.5 pounds, just under 20 bucks. Now, before I break this down and show you how to navigate one of these, I'm using my offset smoker today. We don't care what kind of smoker you have, it doesn't really matter. 225 degrees Fahrenheit is really the perfect temperature for pork loin. And you want to cook your pork loin to 145 degrees Fahrenheit, no more. So actually cook it a few degrees less before you take it out. You'll get a couple degrees of carryover and then it won't overcook. There's the old saying, 145 and your pork will thrive. So maybe you've never seen one of these in the store, or maybe you have, but you never thought about getting one of these. This is the subprimal cut. So there's a couple cuts that come out of this pork loin. Let me get it out of the package and then we'll go from there. All right, so now what you can do, you can cook this whole if you wanted. I understand a lot of people are not gonna have a smoker big enough to fit a whole one, but I like to break it up into 3 cuts anyhow. And before I cut it, I'm gonna flip it over so we can understand a little bit more about this cut. So if you look down on this end, this is the blade section. It's got the darker meat. There's more fat in this cut, which you'll see once I cut this open. Then as we work our way towards the center, this will be your center cut pork loin that you see sold in stores. And then down on this end, this is the sirloin end. This has the least amount of fat, and this is where people have the most amount of trouble because it's easy to dry it out. If you ever get one of these end cuts from the grocery store and it's not labeled, you can always tell which end it is. Does it have the dark meat or does it have the light meat? So this is your blade section, this is your sirloin section. I like to break it up into those 3 muscles. And if we flip it back over, what I want for my center cut, that's the part that has the thickest fat cap, and that's gonna be right about here. And so that's where I'm gonna cut, right about where this fat cap got scalped a little bit. Go here, and then right about here. So let's take a look. Here's that center, nice fat cap, like I talked about. There we go. So that's one, put this right here. Here's our sirloin. Still a little bit of fat cap, but you see it does not have that darker meat on the edge, just a little bit. And then here's the blade section. All that nice, tender meat that everybody loves. So now that I've got it broken up into 3 portions, you need to make a decision. Are you gonna season them all the same? Are you gonna season them differently? And I'm actually seasoning 2 of these the same and 1 of them different. On my sirloin side here, on this fat cap, I'm just gonna make some very shallow scores into the fat cap just to get a little bit of my salt, pepper, garlic down there. And then same thing with my center cut. Just make a couple of shallow slices. So we'll start with my salt, pepper, garlic on this guy. I'm not going to use any binders today, but you could if you wanted to use mustard or a little bit of apple juice, whatever you want. Just something to help you get your seasonings to stick. This is pretty wet, as you saw when I took it out of the package. And we want to get all the sides. Nobody likes one-sided tasting meat. So just make sure you get good coverage. And I'm not going all that heavy. I want the smoke and the meat to be the star of the show. So there's that guy, done. And now for the more traditional barbecue rub. Just get a nice even coating. And now for the blade section. And I'm looking over at my smoker, which has been holding steady at 225 just on that coal bed. So now I know I'm ready to put the meat in. And so I'm gonna pop this door open, pull out this center rack, and then we'll get these guys situated. So up front, my smoker's a little bit hotter in the back. So I'm gonna take our sirloin piece, keep it up front so it doesn't overcook. I'm gonna put my blade section in the back because that can hold up to the heat better. It's got much more fat if you look in there. And then my center cut's gonna go in the center. Close it up and let it smoke. Let's get this door closed. All right, so now we're gonna let this go. I'm taking it up to about 142, 143 Fahrenheit. Like I said, then we'll get the carryover. I will come back and check on it a couple times. I will spritz it with some water and apple cider vinegar, but you could use apple juice or any kind of flavoring, even water if you wanted, just so it doesn't dry out on top. And of course, I'll be taking care of the fire, keeping that 225 going. So we'll be back in a couple hours. I can't wait. And it's been about roughly 2 hours. We've been hovering right around 225 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's time to check on these pork loins. So we're at about 190 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius on the internal of the one up front, which is the one I'm the most concerned about. Just pull these out so you can get a look. And starting with the one in the back, all of our rub has completely dried out. Same with the one in the center, and pretty much the same with the one in the front. So I'm gonna go ahead and spritz them. So this is apple cider vinegar and water. So it's about a cup of water, maybe 2-3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Get these guys. Push them in a little bit so I don't get grease all over the driveway. All right, so we're gonna keep rolling. We'll come back when this guy hits about 140, roughly. Smelling good. And after 3.5 hours, everything was done. I let everything rest for about 20 minutes. And now we're gonna start with our sirloin piece of the loin. This is the one that I'm gonna turn into pork chops. And so what I'll do, this end here is not gonna make a good chop. So we're gonna cut off the end to square it up. You can see a nice smoke ring around the edges. And then I'll do these a little bit thicker. So now we have these succulent, perfectly tender and juicy pork chops. You can toss these on the grill, get some grill marks on them. And what I'll do, we're not gonna eat all of these obviously, so once they've cooled down, I'll go ahead and vacuum seal them and freeze them, and then we've got quick dinner for some time in the future. Okay, now here is the blade section. So same thing, I'll cut off the very little end slice. That's the pitmaster's piece. And then we'll go ahead and start slicing this. I've already started it on this end. Get you a good look. Cut a couple for you. I like to go really, really thin on these. This is where it's gonna feed a ton of people. Look at that. Beautiful smoke ring. Tender as can be. With that barbecue rub on there. And last but not least, our center cut. This is one that had the real nice fat cap on the top. And these make great pork chops. But I'm gonna go thin once again. Just show you a couple of these. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful smoke ring, and totally juicy. So there we go. Look at how much that served up. Beautiful. Can't wait to give some of this away. I've already taste tested a couple of these. All right, so all that meat, 3.5 hours, let it rest for 20 minutes. Smoker, 225 degrees Fahrenheit. Use your favorite rubs. Here we go. So juicy, so flavorful. And if you like this video, definitely check out one of those two right there. And I'll see you over there.